So, two sides, they hold on to that position that they are both a majority in this 8th parliament. Unprecedented in our parliamentary history in this country. We're going into tomorrow's sitting in parliament, not as a normal Tuesday sitting, but one to watch and watch closely. But ahead of that, the Speaker of Parliament has also given an indication of his mindset, in fact, going into tomorrow, because according to the NDC caucus, they are only going to respond to the direction and communication of the Speaker of Parliament. And he is the man to watch tomorrow. And this is what he put out earlier today. God bless our homeland Ghana and make it great and strong beyond any single individual or institution. That is the Speaker of Parliament. He put out just these two. In fact, it's a straight sentence, as a matter of fact, earlier today. Clearly captures his disposition, his mindset, his focus going into tomorrow. God bless our homeland Ghana, make it great and strong beyond any single individual or institution. And that's Alban Suman from Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament, right there. Professor Bafaj is a governance expert, a former senior advisor on governance to the United Nations, joining us on Zoom. Professor Bafaj, this straight sentence from the Speaker, obviously, is one that from the governance perspective, you subscribe to, is it not?
Certainly, it portends a kind of ominous situation tomorrow. It doesn't give me any sense of hope that there's going to be some compromise or any consensus towards avoiding any serious confrontation within our governance structure. And I think in addition to the Speaker's statement, there have been other statements by our friends in the NDC, and of course some from the NDC too. So all seem to indicate that tomorrow, if you are not careful, and as the Speaker says, for God to bless this homeland of ours, we might witness a sad day. Not necessarily violence and killings or anything of the sort, but a sad day in terms of how our democracy may come to a screeching halt. You know, effective governance requires full cooperation of all branches of government. Here I'm referring to the three apex arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So whenever there's a serious confrontation between or amongst these institutions, democracy suffers. And I think what we have built together as a nation, as a people, for these almost 32 years in this republic, we must find a way to safeguard it. There's no need for any reversal. So what I will suggest strongly is that it may not be too late for some wise men in the country to rise up and find a way to moderate what could be a very sad day tomorrow.
You talk about it not being too late for some wise men in this country to rise up and speak. There are some who have even called on the Council of State to have at least by now reached out to these two sides to counsel them, because that's part of their mandate, is it not?
It is indeed, and even beyond the Council of State. Of course, I've heard this evening that the Peace Council has made some initiatives. But you know, most of our initiatives are already prejudged by those who do not agree with them for this or other reason. So I think it's important for private diplomacy to be initiated. And I believe strongly that all of us, including those who are aggrieved and those who are angling for all kinds of things, we are all aware that the supreme interest of this country is a peaceful one. The well-being of this country, the people, can be achieved through peace. And I believe all of us are committed to that. So if we can take that as the national interest at this point, I think it may help for people to perhaps moderate their sentiments. At the moment, I think most of us are kind of drowned in sentiments and emotions, and therefore are not seeing reason to find a way to accommodate each other. A wise man once said that war breaks out when people cease to reason. Any war that breaks out simply suggests that those combatants simply could not reason. That's why war breaks out. So in the same way, I believe that if someone can intervene for cool heads to prevail, perhaps we may avoid the sad day that I'm referring to as being tomorrow.
A private diplomacy, obviously meaning that someone outside of the state or constitutional architecture that we have, for instance, because you would have those who hold the view that the composition and the appointment process of the members of the Council of State even makes it too difficult for them to even have these persons reach a compromise. Would you agree with that?
Precisely. You see, there's no state institution that is regarded as truly independent or neutral. And it's all because of the system we have created for ourselves, the appointment system. Anyone made president of this country immediately is going to appoint not less than 7,000 people, including all the heads of state agencies and many other things, DCs and all. So that structure that we have in itself creates this perception of bias or perception of one person or an individual institution being under the wings of a certain president. This is not new. We see that all the time. But perhaps this time around, I think the perception is much stronger because I think the sitting president has not helped himself and the country by avoiding certain tendencies. People seeing that oftentimes appointments are maybe not based on merit, but on loyalty and those kind of things. So that perception is quite strong. And the recent addition of more judges to the Supreme Court tends to indicate to people that again the president deliberately packed the court. So there are all these perceptions, but I think after all is said and done, the supreme interest of the nation should be the concern of all of us, And I think also that this conversation reminds us that we need to really question the practice democracy that we have imposed on ourselves. I'm used to saying that there's two sides of democracy. The principal democracy, referring to the values and the rights, freedoms that all of us value as human beings, is different from practicing those values. In every country, people have the right to structure the practice based on their own history and culture. You see, we have imposed on ourselves what is strictly a competitive adversarial democracy. I don't know why we thought that would be the best for us, because maybe we see it being practiced in the Western countries. But their culture maybe support that. But here, I don't see that. I'm not surprised, by the way, for what is happening, because all along I knew it would come to a point where these conflicts, confrontations, and threats of destabilizing the democratic process will emerge. Because look, if you take into account what we all call the winner-takes-all system that we have,
right?
That if you're a party and you win 51%, the 49, those who won 49 will have to be sidelined for 4 years, 8 years. And unfortunately for us in Ghana, almost all our politicians are professional politicians. I don't know if they have any life besides politics. So if somebody goes into this for 4 years and is sidelined for 4 years, another 4 years, 8 years, then you can understand why people will be desperate to cling to winning by all means. Mm-hmm. So in the past, when you hear all die be die or good for good or whatever that we call it, it's all because of this attachment to political power, without which most of us perhaps will not make a living. And that is a reality, because people are going to this system. In fact, like a wise man said some time ago in Nigeria, the most lucrative jobs in Africa today is the religious industry and the political industry. Politics has become industry. It shouldn't be that way. So this problem that we are having, I'm afraid it will be repeated, is simply telling us that perhaps we need to revise our notes and find a kind of a system that is all inclusive. People mention proportional representation. Maybe that is the answer. You see, so I think it's time for us, after we go through this, to seriously consider how we redesign our politics to avoid these extremities that we are experiencing.
I do appreciate your prescriptions and the solutions to your proposals to the situation as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Professor Bafo Ajimendia, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. He's a governance expert, former senior governance advisor to the United Nations, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And in fact, a number of you have been asking who are these wise men. You hear Professor Bafo Ajimendia talk about some wise men in this country. Some wise men should rise up by now and start talking to these people. I mean, on both sides of the House, the MPP and the NDC. It proposes private diplomacy. The number of you appointed to the Council of State as being made up of what you would expect to be the constitutionally defined wise men to counsel. This is it. And you're not wrong, in fact, if you think of that, because we are paying them to do their job, right? And these are their functions, essentially. Counseling the president and various arms of government on all matters of national interest. Also, consider nominations for appointment, and take a look at the fourth one. Regular engagement with key public officials on policy and management and operational matters, promote linkages, coordination, and synergy among sector ministers, departments, and agencies, examine and monitor. And you would flip to the last one, mediation and conflict resolution. Mediation and conflict resolution to ensure national peace and harmony. That's one of the major functions of the Council of State. Mediation and conflict resolution to ensure national peace and harmony in government, right? So this presents it. But as we speak, there's really no record as yet of whether they have performed this function of doing their bit to ensure that some wise men begin to speak as we are talking about now. In what seems to be a proactive move, the National Peace Council convened an emergency meeting ahead of what is expected to be a relatively tensed parliamentary session tomorrow. The aim of this meeting, as we understand, is to prevent any chaotic scenes in the House tomorrow, because this parliament is not shy of those kinds of situations. At least the birthing of this parliament on the dawn of January 6th into January 7th, that's the year 2021, we saw what happened there. Sheikh Arimi Al-Shaibo is a member of the National Peace Council and the spokesperson of the National Chief Imam, and he's been talking about what this emergency meeting really achieved. Take a look.
Serious anticlimax to our democratic journey if we really have to see something untoward happening tomorrow, because some have said it's most likely some military people will be deployed. We don't have the basis for it, but once it's been put out there, we must prepare ourselves for what can happen. So the advice I can give is the trio, that is the various arms of government need to remove sentiment and see what is happening now as a certain opportunity to understand that certain changes could come at any time, and we can look at the opportunity to really improve, our democratic journey. It's not so much about this party or that party, but where we have reached means that we have hit a certain point in our democratic journey where certain decisions must be made. And I think if we can remove political sentiment and look at this as an opportunity to make a certain change for the better of our future.
Also, Sheikh Arimi Al-Shaibo, there is a spokesperson of the National Chief Imam, also a member of the National Peace Council there. And ahead of Parliament's reconvening tomorrow, Tuesday, October 22, there's been mounting,